Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am so amped for today's part one of 2 interviews with one of my most favorite humans ever, and I am just so grateful to call him a mentor and an inspiration and a friend. He has the most incredible story and journey, and I love the way that he shows up for all of us in the world that are just grateful to be able to be in his presence, whether it's in person or online, Audible, listening to him on his podcast. He constantly puts out so much value and knowledge, and he's inspiring, he's aspirational, he's generous, he is smart as hell. And this person that I am about to interview, and I am so excited to share with all of you, is the one and only Chris Harder. So buckle up, enjoy part 1 of this interview. Guys, welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am so fucking excited to have my friend Chris Harder here today.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, I am so pumped. I feel like this was something I wanted and manifested before I even had a podcast. And the podcast was still in its infancy stages. But today has been an amazing day of amazing humans. And I am so excited and grateful to have you here. Thank you. And for any of you that have maybe been living under a rock and doesn't know who Chris Harder is, who Lori Harder is, they're 2 of my favorite humans, but your journey has been colorful, it's been gritty, and you have had a lot of peaks and valleys and road bumps and some catastrophes in there along the way. But what you have done to navigate it, both you and Lori, you've really shown up with grit and perseverance and a strong love and bond with each other as husband and wife, partners, besties. But I would love for everyone listening to learn a little bit more about your journey, because that's one thing that I've consumed of yours for years, just
Sure.
listening to your show and being a consumer of your content.
Well, listen, I'll start by saying thanks for having me on. This feels like when we're all at the lake house this summer, just taking those conversations and recording them, right? So everybody can kind of be a fly on the wall and hear some of the things that we talk about. You asked about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's journey is full of peaks and valleys. I think everybody's journey requires grit. I think everybody's journey is going to be a very unexpected one. It's never going to go as planned. And I think when you accept that, instead of looking at it as, oh, why has this happened to me? Why am I in this moment? Why didn't this work out? Life becomes a lot easier. But I think you don't accept that until 2 things happen. Number 1, somebody like us sits here and says, by the way, that's normal for everybody. So it normalizes it. And then number 2, you get a few reps under your belt, realizing, oh, sometimes you're going to get kicked in the teeth, and sometimes you're going to have to recover. And don't worry, you're always going to find a way to. And when that happens a few times, then you become a little bit more confident to take risk and to go after big things and to create the life that you want. So our versions of getting kicked in the teeth, let me start with this one. I was kicked out of college after 2.5 years. And when you grow up in the Midwest in the 90s, that is like the kiss of death, right? It was like, you go to college, get a good job, or you're screwed. So my parents thought my life was over. But I purposely got kicked out of college because I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to be out participating in the economy. So I went and I got a job at a car dealership, right? I'm 21 years old. I like cars. It made sense to me. And there I learned 2 things. I learned sales and I learned leadership. And I think if you can learn sales and leadership, you can write your own ticket. Now, right about this time, there's a big mortgage boom starting to happen. And all my friends were making money in lending. So, of course, I'm like, well, I want a piece of that. So I moved from the car dealership to a bank that I was not qualified for because I was kicked out of college. You're supposed to have a college degree. So I go and I interview with this guy named Todd. And I basically talked my way into that job that I was supposedly not qualified for. And I started as a lowly loan officer and kind of worked my way up through the ranks until I had like 1,100 directs and indirects, like, employees. And it was great and it was fun and it was kind of like boiler room, but not so illegal. You know what I mean? Like that type of fun atmosphere, until all of a sudden the recession hit. And this became the second big kick in the teeth. The recession hit, and Lori and I were living beyond our means. And when the music stopped, we were left holding the bag, right, with no chair to sit in. And I remember coming home and having to tell Lori, babe, we probably knew this was coming, because I spent the past year, by the way, prior to me losing that job, getting up first thing in the morning, catching a flight to some random ass city, walking into a bank branch and shutting it down and telling person by person, 1,000 people over the course of a year, hey, I'm sorry to let you go today. Here's what your severance package is, right? So we kind of knew this was coming. So sure enough, it becomes our turn. And I come home, I tell Lori, lost my job today. We kind of knew this was coming. And we have to sell this big house that we just built because we've been living beyond our means. We have to get rid of the cars. We have to get rid of the rental properties because they're upside. Like, we had to start from below zero. And this is like 08, 09. And for context, how old am I at that time? I'm 30, I guess, at that time, somewhere in that ballpark. So I guess that should be easy math. I'm born in 77, yeah. 08, 09. I'm 31, 32, I guess, at this time. Not an ideal time when you're living in the moment to think that you have to start over. But now, being older, looking back, it actually is an ideal time to start over, because it's early enough for you to learn those lessons before you've spent too much life, so you still have plenty of runway in front of you to take care of your money and to make smart moves this time. But that was second kick in the teeth. And when I say that was a kick in the teeth, I don't mean just financially. I mean mentally. My worth up to that point was, what was my title? What was my next promotion going to be? How many people reported to me? I was very caught up in that stuff. And when you're stripped of that worth, you have no choice but to choose again. And so here I was, low 30s, stripped of what I thought my identity was, having to choose again. Now, I'll tell you this. Again, hindsight being 2020, I look back and this is one of the greatest moments of my life. Because when you're stripped of everything, you've got nowhere to go but up. And when you're stripped of your identity, you get to choose again. It's a blank chalkboard and you can write out whatever the hell you want on that chalkboard. But in the moment, it feels like garbage. And I'll give you one specific, matter of fact, I'll give you two specific moments of just how rough it felt, so that if anybody is going through this right now, in whatever version they're going through, they can truly understand, hey, you're going to be okay. So story number one, this neighbor that lived across the street, his name was Greg. And Greg came over because he saw the moving trucks out front, and he let himself in the house. And I was on my hands and knees in like the mud room packing a box. And I hear, man, what's going on? What's going on here? And I turn and I look up, and here's Greg standing over me. Remember, I'm on my knees. And I said, we short sold the house, which means you sell it for less than you owe on it. We short sold the house. We've got to go move into a little condo in uptown Minneapolis, and we're starting over. And he looks at me, and his response was, what the hell would you go and do something like that for? You're going to bring down all the values in the neighborhood. And when I tell this story on podcasts, I always hope it makes its way back to Greg. I'd love to see that motherfucker sometime, right?
Asshole.
And that was his response. And in that moment, plus physically having him stand over me while I'm like on my knees packing a box, right? That was one of the lowest, crappiest feeling moments. Another moment during that time was putting everything that we had just bought or had decorated in that house that we had just built on Craigslist, and watching car after car pull up in front of the house, and person after person come in, and they would bargain for the couch, or they'd bargain for the dining set, or they'd bargain for the TVs or whatever they wanted, and walk out with our items in front of the neighbors, leaving us with just a little bit of cash. But here's how we made our comeback. We took all of that cash from liquidating everything that we could, and it was just enough to pay one full year's runway in this tiny little mother-in-law suite in a condo building in uptown Minneapolis. And that was the 1 year of full runway, no stress, starting from zero, that gave us the ability to say, how do we want to show up this time? What do we want our identity to be? What do we want our careers to look like? And how do we want to add value to the world? And it was in that moment that became the catalyst for Lori becoming Lori and me doing what I do today as well.
I love your story so much. I'm understanding also it's not a beautiful, picturesque storybook, that it's turbulent, and the emotions and feelings that came from it, like Greg, such a dick.
Greg sucked.
Greg sucks. He does suck. I hope he does hear it. Probably not my podcast, maybe your podcast. But, hearing all of that and watching what you guys have done from that is truly remarkable. And I think that is proof to be inspiration for anybody that you can do anything.
Yeah.
So from this apartment in Minneapolis,
Yep.
what foot do you put in front of the other as that next step? Is it personal development? Is it grinding, working 3 jobs?
Yeah.
What does that next step look like as part of your comeback season?
What a great question. There's several parts to it. The first part that I have to share is we did what was counterintuitive. When everybody else is in this position, they'll typically go pick out the worst spot that they can in order to save the most amount of money. We picked out the best, most expensive building that we could get in by just renting this mother-in-law suite, like 900 square foot studio suite that belonged to one of the wealthy residents up higher in the condo building, that they literally would let their mother-in-law stay in while she was alive, right? So we rented this because they didn't have a need for it anymore. And that made us the poorest people by far in the wealthiest building in uptown Minneapolis, because we wanted proximity to the biggest thinkers, the most successful people, to inspiration, to the things that would help accelerate our comeback. And this is where people go wrong. Again, it's counterintuitive, but they try and save as much money as humanly possible, and I understand that. So they put themselves into groups of other people trying to save as much money as humanly possible. And the only ideas that are really exchanged in groups like that is the common thread of struggling to get by, and no one who's gone first, and nobody who's already miles ahead of you, right? So there's no one really to lift you up and help pull you up. We didn't want that. We knew we needed to be surrounded by people that would have the hand, the ability, the knowledge, the inspiration to reach down and help pull us up. And sure enough, it happened. Like, I still have lifelong friendships from people in that building today that helped us kind of mount our comeback and share with us, here's how you really become wealthy in life, and here's how you don't. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing we did was, this was really when Lori became Lori. I would get 1 or 2 promotions a year, which means we had to move to a different city every once or twice a year. So Lori never really had the ability or the need to go become Lori. Started as fitness, became self-development, and then what she is today. And when this happened, when I came home and told Lori, hey, starting over from below zero, she could have had any reaction she wanted. She could have been like, fuck you, I'm out. She could have done any of that. But she was silent, and she sat there for a moment. And then the first thing she said to me, she goes, I'm never going to let this happen again. And that was the moment that she had to choose to become Lori and build and harness all this potential that she had. Because she never had a chance to harness it before. And she went and she got a job at this great big box gym that paid $6 per half-hour session for trainers. And she got that job just long enough to learn how to be a trainer and how to sell. And the minute she felt like she had that knowledge, she went and rented the crappiest basement of a commercial chiropractor strip mall that she could find, so that she was able to have her own space and not work for somebody else, but instead work for herself. And I remember at the time, she set her rates at $80 per session. Now, for context, this is 2008, 2009, so in the Midwest. So there's a lot of money back then per session. And she was afraid to set her rates there, right? Imposter syndrome. I'm brand new at this. Why would somebody pay? And I remember telling her, said, babe, if you set your rates there, you're going to attract people that want to pay those rates. If you set them down here or lower, you're going to attract those kind of people that want to just pay lower rates. And the danger of attracting people that want to pay lower rates is you get caught up in what I call either a positive or negative referral loop. The positive referral loop would mean wealthy people are saying, oh, you got to go train with my trainer, to other wealthy people. But if you've got lower end rates, then you've got people that may not have as much means referring you to other people that may not have as much means. So be careful which bed you make, because you got to lie in it. So she trusted, although there was a lot of fear on it, she trusted that intuition, and it worked great. And she went from $80 a session to $100 a session to $120 a session, and on, with very little overhead. Then she learned, wait, I could sell packages. Then she learned, wait, I'm trading time for money and I'm reaching a ceiling. How do I capitalize on people that, want to do this, that maybe don't live right here in Minneapolis or whatever? And this became the beginning of one of the very first online fitness programs that existed. Now today they're a dime a dozen. They're commoditized. But back then, nobody was doing it. Like, this was so archaic back then that all we had was Facebook to attract people. And she was competing and start winning fitness competitions, right? So that's what she would kind of lead with. And we would stay up till midnight on the 30th or 31st of every month. And we would have to manually enter, but at the time, I think we had like 200 online customers. We'd have to manually enter the credit cards number by number. And, 3/4 of them would go through, 1/4 would get denied for whatever reason. And we'd be so excited, but so tired and frustrated at the end of that night. Be like, okay, how much should we make this month on this online program? But that's what really unlocked the realization of you can't trade your time for money and expect to get anywhere significant. You instead have to do things that are scalable and create those yourself. So that was the second step, right? Create a scalable income source. And then we created multiple income sources off of this fitness personality that she was creating. We got into supplements, got into everything else. So that was step 2. Step 3 then was we had to go out and create financial rules for ourselves that would never allow us to be in this position again. And I noticed during the recession that while a lot of people got their asses handed to them, just like us, there were some people that capitalized and got a lot wealthier during that time. And I thought, well, that's counterintuitive, right? The news tells you that it's bad right now, and everyone around you tells you it's bad right now, but I'm watching these other people actually become very wealthy very quickly. And that's when I realized that what school teaches you about financial stability and what the common world will teach you about financial stability really doesn't work at all. You need to go find the people that succeed in hard times and mimic what they're doing, learn from what they're doing. And that's what I did. I set out, similar to being in that building, among other relationships I made, I set out to build those relationships and ask what they're doing and look under the hood and get as much information as I could. And that's when, we learned and set forth rules for ourselves, such as we live in a time now where if any income source went away today, then we wouldn't have to change our lifestyle tomorrow. In other words, you can't rely on one income source. You got to have multiple income sources. And I mean, even if the biggest one went away today, you still have to live and put yourself in position so that you don't have to change your lifestyle tomorrow. Now, someone might hear that and be like, that's impossible. I'm barely getting by. How am I supposed to do that? Well, I understand that you may not be able to get there today, but that should become your new North Star. And when you have a new target, now you have a different path ahead of you. And if that is what you're aiming for, you'll eventually get there. And I would actually encourage you to try and get there with urgency. So it was just financial rules like that we set for ourselves by learning what other people were doing that went unscathed and instead actually grew their wealth during that tough time. So those are just a few of the things that we did to kind of mount our comeback.
You guys, pause it right there. You know that I am always talking about health, fitness, feeling your best. So I am always on the hunt for new products that help with glowing skin, travel, dehydration, bloating. And I have found one that is my newest obsession. It's called Glossy Skin and Gut Daily Beauty Supplement. It's a skin routine you can drink. Not only does it taste amazing, like a light, refreshing lemon spa water that I could drink all day, but it is making me feel so recharged and like I'm feeding my body and skin everything it needs to keep up with me, my busy days, and my goals. It has a clinically studied probiotic in it that survives the trip to your gut, so you know it's working, along with hyaluronic acid, which is incredible for the glowy, hydrated look for your skin. On top of that, it's loaded with skin-loving ingredients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, coconut water powder, minerals, electrolytes, and antioxidants. It's how I love to start my day. For real, this is a game changer, especially if you travel. If you want glowy skin and a happy gut, go grab your subscription because best results take 30 to 60 days at getglowsy.com. That's GETGLOCI.com. Getglowsy.com. And please enjoy and use coupon code INSPIRE. INSPIRE. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Again, go to getglowsy.com and grab your skin and gut supplement because great skin starts from within.
I love that. And I love hearing this as part of your comeback season, kind of on the heels of the apartment that you chose to live in.
Mm.
And I've heard, I think both you and Lori talk about this, that now really resonates for me and Matt with what we own from a brick and mortar standpoint about a gym.
Yeah.
That you went out and sought a more premium gym.
Yep.
However that fit with the budget that you had while rebuilding and in your comeback season. And it has something that I think I heard years ago of you guys talking about that really stuck with me and is a component of our North Star with what we are creating at Benchmark Fitness,
Right.
of wanting to be a place that people look forward to being at. And it's, a real bar raiser compared to gyms that are $50 to $80 a month. And then you get into the threshold of gyms that are over $120 a month and the who's who that goes there.
I've been to your gym, right? And I noticed two things. One, everyone was good looking for some reason. It was weird. And two, like weird levels of everybody being good looking. But the second thing I noticed is everyone seemed really positive, high energy, and very successful. And, I've looked at your business model. We've looked under the hood together and we've done those things. And what you guys are creating is not a gym. You guys are creating an affluent, positive community. And there's a difference. You can work out anywhere. You can go to, what's the gym where they give you pizza on Mondays and they don't let you take your sleeves off? Like,
oh yeah,
what I forget.
dingy
Maybe we're
ones.
not allowed to say what that gym is, but it's purple and it's everything I don't stand for, right? But I get it. There's a weight rack for everybody.
I feel so seen.
Yeah,
feel so
right.
seen with your feelings right now.
That's not what you're creating. People can work out anywhere they want on a bargain. People don't join a gym like yours for the bargain. People join a gym like yours because they know they're going to meet other people that see the world the way that they do or that are doing the things that they want to do. And so if I woke up in your shoes, I wouldn't be walking people through saying, here's the weights, here's the treadmills, here's the kettlebells. I'd be walking them through telling stories of, here's the kettlebells and so, this is their favorite part of the gym. By the way, they own the such and such shop down the street and they like working out here because they found so many customers from our gym that end up going to their smoothie shop or whatever, right? So painting that picture of the successful individuals that work out there. That is what sets your gym apart from anyone else that might be selling a place to lift weights. Now, this isn't a podcast about a gym. I ask everyone who's listening to find your own metaphor in that. Whatever your business is, whatever you're selling, whatever your service is, you're not selling the fucking service. You're selling the culture and the community that is different that you've created compared to anybody else out there that's just competing on price. And when you learn that, you learn real quickly that price almost becomes irrelevant because you can apply a different type of value to what they're investing in.
I love that so much. And I know you also have a story regarding your either current trainer or previous trainer that you had that chose a specific gym.
My trainer right now here in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
His name is Tucker. The dude is awesome. We're about to go to our California home. And Lori put down her foot this year and said, hey, we're spending way more time in California than Arizona going forward. And the number one thing I'm going to miss besides family and friends is freaking Tucker.
Aww.
I already recruited him and tried to get him to move to Newport. And he can't for 2 years because his school that his fiance is in. But I'm going to put on the pressure, and I'm going to get them to move to Newport. Tucker, if you're listening, I'm going to get you guys moved to Newport. Okay.
I love that.
Here's what he does. He lives way up in North Scottsdale, like way up. And our gym is down in Paradise Valley. And it's the most expensive gym in town here. And he had the choice to work for a lifetime 5 minutes from his house where he is. So, right, that's the choice most people would make. It's convenient, and you're going to save a little bit of money on your commute. You're going to save time, et cetera, et cetera. But he knew intuitively that if he really wanted to have a spectacular life, he had the opportunity to drive 40 freaking minutes each way, not 5 minutes each way, and train and get to know individuals that live the life that he eventually wants to live, right? This is what he told me. And a great example is right now, he and I are talking about, I won't disclose it, but a brand new take on supplements, a brand new delivery system that just came from the conversations during our training sessions and me saying, well, you can raise money for that. And, I can introduce you to a formulator. And, here's how CPG works. These are conversations that he likely would not be having if he went to the more entry-level gym that was close and convenient instead of choosing to be in the one where all of the high performers would be. So he's a walking, talking version of accelerating your path, accelerating your journey by putting yourself in proximity of people that are already going where you want to go.
I love that so much. And naturally, it resonates more from the fitness space and training. But I think that's an excellent segue to really talk about something that you do so well, and more than that, you curate so well about getting in the room.
Yeah.
Has to be one of my favorite topics, but more so something that has been so impactful and transformative for my life, the relationship that Matt and I have just as husband and wife, but as business partners for our business. And it's really to credit you and everything that you have done for us as well as Lori, and that what you design and curate from getting in a room has done so much for us and many of our friends and peers.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear your take on that, not only from your own experience. It's kind of a two-part question. Your experience for you and Lori getting in rooms and what those experiences are like for you, but then also on the other side of curating those.
Well, step one is get in the rooms until you're ready for step two, which is create the rooms. And I encourage everybody to accelerate their step two, because your journey accelerates when you get into the rooms full of high performers. We've already talked enough about that on this podcast. I don't need to beat that to death. But your journey really accelerates when you become the great aggregator of any one set of talent, when you become the great aggregator of any one industry. I'll give you an example. You can make money by owning hotels, or you can make more money by being Expedia, right? You can make money by owning individual Airbnbs, or you can make more money by being Airbnb, right? So the great aggregator of any industry or any common thought or any common group is always the one that's going to make the most money the quickest. And when you build the rooms, when you build the stages, it goes from you being a participant to you being the one on the stage and getting to choose who else is going to be on stage or not. And that kind of gives you a leg up, if you will, in everybody else's eyes. And from a monetary standpoint, from a credibility standpoint, and from an opportunity standpoint, now everything flows through you. And that's really what we've aimed to build, is the rooms that we wish existed, whether it's my mastermind, whether it's the dinner series, whether it's the roundtables, the rooms that we wish existed when we were mounting our comeback. Those weren't common things back then. And at the same time, having all of the opportunity and new relationships flow through us. You guys went to the dinner series yesterday. I'm guessing you must have met how many people? Give me an idea.
Oh my gosh, I'd say quality connections with at least 30 individuals.
Okay, 30. Awesome, right? We met every individual, and every individual is posting today on our behalf. Thank you, Chris and Lori, or here's what I got for. So that's the example of it's highly beneficial to first get in the room because you're going to meet the great people. But as soon as you can, start building the room, because then that's that next level that'll accelerate your journey once again. So many of our friendships, like you guys, so many of our investment opportunities, so many of our other business ideas that we get to have a stake in come from curating the rooms where other talented people are going to be in. Plus, now I've got a great pickleball partner in your husband, although after what I saw today, that poor guy sucks.
Does he need some pickleball lessons?
I'm just kidding. He learned quickly.
I got a girl for that. Okay. Well,
So everybody listening right now, he's like 10 feet over there listening.
Yeah.
So I was really just trying to take a dig at him while he's over there listening.
And he's just like laughing in the corner
Yep.
and it's probably sweating.
Trying to be on his best behavior.
Yeah, figuring out when in the schedule he's going to take pickleball lessons. Okay, this is also a great opportunity to, again, it's a story that I love. I want to know, for everybody listening, to hear the magic of getting in the room with your love story, with your business partner, Matt, and really kind of, and then want to dive into frello. I want people to hear the excitement of frello. Like, we're fucking amped about frello.
Yeah. Well,
And
you guys are investors in
we're
frello.
so proud.
Yeah.
We are so proud to be a part of that. And just the story that you have of how you and Matt met, but also there wasn't like an overnight, oh, I met him at a dinner last night. Let's
Right.
start a business together.
Yep.
Kind of the notion of planting seeds and nurturing those relationships like you spoke to yesterday.
Well, your network is going to have everything you ever need to accomplish every dream that you have, even the dreams that you don't know you have yet. And to explain frello and the value of having these relationships, I really have to kind of back up for a moment and explain where it came from. So frello, for those listening, is a peer-to-peer lending app, meaning we're matchmaking those who have a financial need and those who have the means to lend to them for their financial need. We're just a matchmaker for those two. Think Uber, but instead of driver-rider, it's lender-borrower for small personal loans. Now, where this came from was I've got a podcast, and the podcast is centered around the common thread of generosity and people's success stories and money. And when you have a podcast like that, it somehow inadvertently invites everybody to reach out to you in your DMs and say, hey, here's my hardship. Could I have a little bit of money, right? So I get like 50 to 100 DMs a month of people saying, here's my hardship. Could I have some money? And because you don't know what's true and what's not true, I had to create this personal policy that I wasn't going to lend in the DMs or I wasn't going to give in the DMs. Now, despite having this personal policy, somewhere in, I think it's 2019, we were still in our Santa Monica home, so it could have been 2019 or 2020. I'm scrolling Instagram and I see this DM and I think, come on, dude, don't open it. But then I get a feeling, and I don't know how else to describe it, like a physical feeling, open this DM and answer it. So I did. It's a landscaper, and he said, Chris, I listen to your show. I'm so grateful for everything you do. And I'm really embarrassed to be sending this to you, but I need to catch up 2 payments on my truck, and it's $680, and I don't know where to get it. And if I don't get the $680 like yesterday, they're going to repossess my landscape truck. And if they repossess my landscape truck, then I've got 2 great guys that work for me that are going to lose their jobs. Is there any way you'd lend me $680? And again, just following that feeling, I was like, hey, stranger, I'm not going to lend you $680. I'll give you $680. All I ask is for you to work hard to put yourself in position to do this for somebody else one day. I believe in you. And that's it. So I PayPal'd him, remember, met him on Instagram, PayPal'd him $680 and thought I'd never hear from this dude again. And, was it a scam? Was it real? Was it fake? Didn't know, didn't care, just followed this feeling. Well, about 2 months later, he shows back up in my DMs. And I thought, oh shit, here we go. Like, gonna ask for more. But that's not the case. He said, I wanted to let you know what you did for me that day when you sent me the money. He said, I got current on the truck, kept the truck, and those guys kept their jobs. Great. But he said something else happened. When you said all you wanted in return was for me to work hard to put myself in position to do this for somebody else, that lit a fire in me like I've never felt before. And I've gone absolutely ham getting as many new landscape jobs as possible to the point where I'm now buying a second truck and hiring 2 more guys. And I thought, holy shit, Allie, the difference between this guy going out of business and closing 2 additional jobs in the economy, or this guy thriving and adding 2 additional jobs in the economy, was just a $680 bridge. And he had nowhere else to turn. He had to turn to a stranger whose podcast he listens to. I thought that's a solvable problem. And that became the seed that was planted in me that now today grew into frello. I became obsessed with solving this problem. Now, why did I back up to tell that big, long story? Well, it was my obsession to solve this problem. But when it comes to tech, and I realized tech was how I was going to solve it, like an app, a matchmaking app, I am so tech inept. It is painful. Like if my TV breaks, my brother has to come over and fix it. And it's usually something dumb, right? But tech is not my thing. I never wanted an app. I never wanted a tech company. I didn't want any of those things. But I was obsessed with solving this problem. So I turned to my network, just like we teach and preach. And in my network was a good friend named Matt Merrick. Now, right while this is going on, Matt is just wrapping up the sale of his tech company that he had for 14 years. Great big 9-figure sale. And when he sold that company to his competitors, they said, we want your tech, we want your customers, we want everything, but we don't want your team. And so they were going to cut his team. Well, being the good guy that he is, he had said to his team, hey guys, thanks for getting me across the finish line. I'm going to pay your salaries for the next 2 years, whether you want to stay at home and coast, you've earned it. Whether you want to get a job and double dip, you've earned it. Or maybe one day someone will come along and have a cool idea for us because we know we work together as a team. And that someday was me, right? I was like, Matt, you got to help me with this thing. So he was tired. He was burnt out. He didn't necessarily want a project that quickly. But he said, if you can win my team over with this idea, we'll do it. I got his whole team on a Zoom. I pitched them the idea, and we've been off to the races ever since. Now, here's where this comes full circle. You had asked dinners, networks, etc. Every answer you need should be contrived from being in those rooms. I met Matt at a masterminding / networking dinner, if you will, 7 or 8 years prior. I should actually go look at the pictures on my phone to actually find out what year it was. But about 7 to 8 years prior, that was put on by another good friend of ours, Rob Murgatroyd, at a dinner in Boston. And we happened to be seated across from one another, and we hit it off, and we had a great time, and we had chemistry, and neither one of us knew that building a $1 billion company was going to be in our future together. We just became friends. We just became homies. Stayed in touch. Went to Europe together. Went on some trips together. And sure enough, when I needed a solution to the challenge that I became obsessed with, he was there waiting for it. And he wouldn't have been there, and I wouldn't have had that answer if not for being at that dinner 7, 8 years ago. So that's just one of a million examples we have where if you put yourself in the right rooms and among the right high performers, everything that you will need will be in that room or one introduction away. And in this case, it was Matt and his team.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.